This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I'm here with my good friend from Dallas, CEO and founder of Zyn22, Mark Page.
Hi, Pete. Thank you.
Welcome to Manhattan.
Thank you. Texas in Manhattan, it may be hotter here than it is at home right now, too, by the
when
way.
people complain about things like, my cell phone, battery's low, like you didn't have air conditioning like 100 years ago, right? I don't understand all these people upset about things. Anyway, talking about hot, let's talk about Zyn22 and let's talk about what's going on in the Dallas market. And why don't we start off by talking about how you got interested in changing your profession from finance to fitness?
Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I'm
Welcome.
still trying to figure it out. Yeah,
You're
thank
hooked,
you,
man. You're not coming out. You know
Thank
that,
you.
right?
This is my second company to start. I'm also the founding principal of an investment firm that was a hybrid type family office in Fort Worth, Texas, called Tailwind Advisors. And what that led me to was just, invest in a big pool of capital. I mean, we started with one family, we grew it to 6 families. And I think by the time I left, we were almost $1 billion in investment capital. And so, but I saw a lot of deals. That's the short version. I saw a lot of deals, a lot of businesses, a lot of different business models. And I've always been let's just call it a gym rat, a fitness guy. Mm-hmm. And I've just always been really active. And so I watched what was happening in this space, and my thesis started to be, well, the gym's dead. There are these other things that are popping up, and really boutique fitness, which I didn't know the word for then, hadn't even gotten to Dallas, Fort Worth, really, and not in a big way, at least. It is there now, but at the time, and so I really started scratching on it, and it took me about 3 or 4 months of due diligence, and I thought I would seed a business, and then I ended up basically quitting my job and sold my equity in the business and started this, and have run this for 3+ years now. So,
So what tell us the definition behind the name?
Oh man, well, so we did a lot of market studies, a lot of focus group on names, and so everybody either loved or hated the word Zen in Texas. Mm-hmm. So it was either really good or really bad, and everything else that we modeled out was kind of in the middle. We put a Y in the middle of it because we highlight what is your why. Find your why. We talk about that a lot in Zen, so we thought that was a differentiator, and then we put a number at the end of it to really make it unique, where we could trademark and brand it, because Zen was so common that we wouldn't run into it in the future. And so we chose the number 22. It's the number in numerology for a perfect circle, which was a wheel, which was what we came out around, was a spin concept. And then we really marketed on that as well, which was you probably heard the line. It takes 21 days to form a habit.
Sure.
And so we played up on that hard. We said, watch what happens on day 22. And so it was unique. We always hoped, and I always hoped that we would be known in the marketplace as Zen. And we are. We've been successful at that. And so people use it as a noun and a verb, which I think is pretty cool.
So as you started as an entrepreneur in this business, did a lot of the decisions you made, were they based on frustrations or things that you saw that could be done better? Or was it based on things that you looked at what other operators were doing and said, hey, I'm going to bring this to Dallas? Was it a combination?
Yeah, no, I think I knew enough. And by the way, my background in the investment business is not as an analyst, it's as the business development guy. So that means I'm a people person, much like yourself. Yeah. And so I've found deals, found clients. And so when I decided to start this, my initial, my hot button is go find the right people. And so that's what I did. I did see the big models that were in New York and LA that had in the spin models in the indoor cycle world that had gone viral, and I studied them closely and realized there was nothing in Texas like it, and thought I would make a Texas brand. So that's how I got there.
Gotcha. So you started off, you obviously put some of your own capital land. You got some friends and family, kind of the traditional path of building a business.
That's right.
What you learned through those first couple of years of really, what I try and impose on people is the fact that when you're doing starting a new business, you are doing an experiment.
Right.
And if you think you're not, then you got the people got a problem. So, obviously you're a guy who's very transparent and, say, hey, look, I tried certain things, they didn't work, tried certain things, they worked. And kind of this, where you are right now, I think is kind of the culmination of a lot of learnings.
Absolutely.
So maybe you can talk to our audience just saying like,
Sure.
hey, here's what I tried, here's what I didn't.
Right. Well, so, originally I had a manager and 4 assistant managers at the stores, and I had all this staff, and other friends that own businesses would come in and they'd be like, you got way too many people standing around. And so, I mean, it was a learning lesson. Every single thing in there was a learning lesson. And it wasn't until probably 2 years into it, I tapped the brakes on the business because we built 4 studios in 2 years. So we had the foot on the pedal, but it wasn't until about 2 years in I tapped the brakes and said, hey, we got to make sure that we can prove to our investor group that we can run profitable studios, and that's what we did. And so I mean we peeled the whole thing apart. We didn't have to rebuild it, but I did not come in here with really any knowledge now of how to run a fitness business. Now, at the end of the day, it's not rocket science, but at the same time, it took me 2 years to get to the point to figure out. So, but I believe we're there.
Yeah, and in the pending growth equity raise, I mean, this is really this is now a polished machine.
Absolutely,
and it's going into other markets potentially outside of Texas as well, where you feel like there's opportunity where some of these bigger brands might say, well, that demo is not big enough, or that population's not right. Or what have you.
I think we've proven that with our first store in Fort Worth, Texas. We've got 2 in Dallas and 1 in Southlake, which is a wealthy community by DFW Airport. But our best studio is in Fort Worth, Texas. It sits right next to which nobody would ever come, no big brand would ever come in. There's still 1 million people there. And there's a private university, TCU, that's about a mile from us. And it was our flagship store. It's been a wonderful launch, and I think it's proven that one of these that this model can exist in places that aren't the biggest cities in the U.S.
So talk about the team that you put together and how they're poised to execute on the growth here.
Right. Well, my director of operations is Lindsay Anderson. She has a background at Gold's Gym, which is interesting to me. She was a manager at Gold's Gym, which was interesting to me because they're private equity backed. I knew that, that TRT group that owns them. And so she was able to bring a lot of the reports and metrics that she used there to me here. She also worked at Orange Theory and opened 4 Orange Theories. And so, for example, we were opening studios. We opened the first 2 studios. We just opened them. And she told me, she said, Mark, you're doing it all wrong. And I'm like, well, how's that? She said, you're building it that they'll come, and you should be doing it with a pre-sale. And so the last 2 stores that we opened with a pre-sale, and we just knocked it out of the park on, to open the first, day one. I think we did $50,000 to $70,000 in revenue in pre-sales in both markets. So she's my right-hand man. I have a contract CFO who has private equity background as well. So he's out of TPG. So he's a CPA, and yet he's very deep technically and can help me with modeling, and that's very helpful to me as well. And then we have probably next to, let's say, the management team, we have one more person on the operations side. Her name is Lacey McKee, and she's grown up, come out of the studio as a manager, and now she assists Lindsay in the operations. But the next level is a group of what I would call our 3 elite instructors, and that make up our training team. And to me, the most important thing in the business is the product. And so the fact that what I'm resting on and most satisfied right now is that we're organically training instructors, and you know, a spin instructor is an odd duck. It is a hard trait to learn, and it's hard to teach. So we're doing that organically, and I'm very proud of that team that will be able to continue to train. And you know, we're built out, scoped out to be able to grow with the team that we have right now, and not take on a lot of overhead. And so I think we're poised to really see our breakthrough.
So one of the things that it looks like you've been on the front end of is this dual modality concept, where instead of having people just come to you for 3 or 4 days a week just to spin, you know, you've seen what's going on in the high intensity training side. Was that something that came out of looking at what Orange Theory is doing? You know, was it seeing some of your members say, hey, look, I'm at your location for 3 or 4 days a week. This is what I do 2 or 3 days a week, and saying, hey, why don't I become an expert in that? How did that evolve?
Well, I originally wanted to be really good in one thing, and that was spin. So people were talking to me about this at the start, and I just said, no. We're going to be really good at one thing. And we watched this thing just come out of the ground and just light fire. Mm-hmm. Then I watched and found out what the real attrition rate in this business is, right? And it's not good. Let's just call it what it is, right?
Sure.
So you're always trying to keep your customers, and you're always trying to bring new ones in. And so I watched the evolution of our most avid riders come through, and you know, and a year and a half later, it's a different group, and then they're different faces, and I realized how this is going to go. And so I also realized that they were doing something else. Mm-hmm. So I set out, took my team with me. We went to New York and LA. I bet we've been almost 10 times, either individually or as a group, in the last year now. And every time we go, we'll do 1 and sometimes 2 workouts a day. We've seen every cool HIIT workout in New York and LA, I think. Mm-hmm. And we've taken the best parts of those, and we've brought it back to in our own program. And it's launched, and it's really good.
So I've been doing this now 19 years, mm-hmm. and there's obviously a lot of smart people that have been trying to fix the attrition. And I had an interesting conversation with CEO of a billing company, ABC Financial. And he's like, look, people got to stop focusing just on the attrition, because if I was a restaurant, you know, I got to hope that 500 people buy something today. I don't know who those 500 people are going to be, but I just know that on average, I got 500 people coming. And no one asks me when I look at that restaurant business, are those repeat customers or not? So the question is, like, as we go forward here and the choices that people have continue to proliferate, you know, the question might be for investors and for entrepreneurs to say, let's not focus on, you know, the attrition rate. Let's focus on how many people came in. They seem to come in every day. I got 300 people that spin. They might be different. They might decide they want to try CrossFit this month. They might want to try Orange Theory, but on average, there's people that are cycling through, mm-hmm. getting fit, and they want to try a lot of things. Like if I was to get locked into like an Italian restaurant, like, so how many times did I go? Is that a relevant question, or is that?
No, it is. I think there's two prongs to it. One is your product has to stand on its own. Your product has to bring the people back.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And the second part of that down that path is, I believe you have to be innovative enough to where you're giving them options, and just even kind of different amenities, and might even be sidebar revenue streams for you, mm-hmm. shake bars. You know, things like that we can put in. I mean, we're putting an infrared scanner inside our studios, 2 of our studios right now to test it, and I hear it's working great, and a couple on the West Coast.
Talking about like a 3D scanner?
A 3D scanner, absolutely.
Oh, okay, for body.
Yeah, yes, so they can see what's happening to them,
sure,
right?
Sure.
So you that's one leg of the stool. Then the other leg is that with this, what we're doing is you have to be committed to marketing to bringing new people in.
Right.
So the product and the studio has to stand on its own, and I don't think that people look at the number 2 enough. And
correct.
So
That's how I feel.
We have really done everything we can to put technology on marketing, and so that we're always selling to those new faces to bring new people in.
So you've gotten a lot of awards in Dallas. Obviously, there's some really big players there. So I feel like your Zyn kind of punches above its weight, or maybe has a footprint, a psychological footprint that's bigger than the actual footprint. So what have you done to create that, or is part of that just kind of like once you get the flywheel starting, people are talking about it? And
Yeah.
How's that grown?
A lot of it happens on its own, but we use social media hard. We use ambassadors hard. I mean, I'm like, just yesterday, I'm personally reaching out through Instagram direct messages to, TV anchors, to just really important people saying, hey, come in, we'd love to have you. Because the good thing is the product speaks for itself, and they get in there and they're like, this is cool. So one of my mantras to my group has been cast a big shadow. Like they don't need to know in Dallas. I mean, they don't need to know in New York that you're this little company in Dallas that only has 2 stores. Like, act like a national brand, and people will
Right.
pay attention. And I think we've been somewhat successful in that. We've got a good start, but the word's definitely out. It's popular, and Dallas is very competitive. I'm told it's a top 4 market in fitness, and it is crazy competitive. So
as you look to grow, and you go to some of these other markets that are in the middle of the country,
right.
We talked about moving from Dallas to Tulsa, Oklahoma City, potentially up to Atlanta, up to Kansas City. Those other markets, are those areas where you see what your brand stands for? Is that there's a market demand for kind of clean, fun, get results?
Oh yeah,
coming out of Dallas.
Absolutely, and we get an email a week from somebody coming from Oklahoma saying, when are you bringing Zyn here? We get them we get them from all over the place too. So but I do think that there's this great market that's through, what we call it, the heartland, the Bible Belt. I don't know what you call it, but the same type of people that Zyn is resonating with in Dallas Fort Worth, and they don't have anything cool in their city. I mean,
Right.
They might have an Orange Theory, and they might have a cycle bar, and that would be the extent that they would see show up.
So when you talk about some of these church rides that you're doing as an example,
Right.
talk about how that differentiates you, and what kind of testimonials on how people feel about that.
Sure. Yeah, we do a ride in all of our studios. We do a ride every Sunday, and we call it Sanctuary, where we ride to inspirational music. It's like our own little worship service, and it's just it's a way for me to personally to express my faith, and people like that. I think that's the type of market we live in. I'd say it's kind of the Chick-fil-A model of the fitness industry, and it works. I mean, I've heard that Chick-fil-A does 20% more business than the next competitor in only 6 days a week, because people love the brand and they love what they stand for. And so we do that, and we just had people so first of all, we in those classes in all 4 of the studios, they're free. They're sold out. They're the first ones to fill up. They're wait list, and then that just also goes viral in its own way. On social media. It's like, hey, we like people saying what they stand for. We like a company, putting this out here like this. And so it's gotten its own type of momentum and groups behind it. And I think it's also helped us form the culture inside Zyn. I mean, our mission statement is making a difference in the lives of others, one beat at a time. Beat as in the beat of the music, and the beat is in a heartbeat. And we're watching it happen inside our stores every single day. And I think that internally the culture is really resonating about, hey, the world's broken, the world's hurting, and they're coming to our studios every day for a release. And anyway, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then from an investor standpoint, as you've laid some of the groundwork for the growth, what are you seeing on the side of landlords that either know about you or that are courting you to come into new locations?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because I think the market's changed completely.
It
I think
is,
over the last couple of years to our favor.
The hardest part about getting started in the business was getting some good leases. And, not only was I having a hard time getting leases, I was having to personally guarantee them. And it's just that's the last thing I would thought I'd have a hard time was finding a place to go. Right.
Sure.
But we did. We got some good spots, and now that pendulum has swung, and it swung back to us where our phone's ringing. My tenant rep, my real estate girl that represents us, gets inquiries from all types of cool cities over the country that have heard, and we're winning against the big boys. Mm-hmm. The big boys, going in straight up against them and winning. So I'm proud and excited about that.
And when you think about the mission of Zyn, and over the next 3 to 5 years, you lead in the charge here and affecting hundreds of thousands of people to get this type of quality experience. How do you kind of redefine for them to say, look, I just go to Zyn.
Yeah.
I think that's where the boutique concepts are going. Like I go to Soul Cycle.
Right.
I don't belong to any other gym. I ride a Peloton bike every now and again. I play some tennis, but like my affiliation is only with Soul Cycle right now. And I don't own any equity in this for the record. What's that?
I don't really like that.
But I don't live in Dallas, so you give me no product to log into. So the point is that the way I feel about that is my like.
Yes.
That's I don't belong to Crunch anymore. I don't belong to Equinox. I don't belong to New York Sports Club. I belong to a studio. So as more and more millennials and people that this resonates with, like they are going to be your members. Right. And you're basically going to be 100% in control of their health. So how do you feel about that?
I feel a great responsibility. I think it's awesome. Yeah. And I tell my team, I said, we just met and had a big team powwow.
Thanks for the invite, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. And but I told them, I said, this business is getting a lot of looks right now, but it's still small enough for you to all have your fingerprints on it. And I said, there's no telling how big this can be and how much of an impact it can have. So I'm glad your question is not where do you want to take this and what's it going to look like? Because I don't know. Yeah, I do not know what 5 years looks like from here, but I think it looks really good, and I think it's bigger and better than I could have originally imagined.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we talk about, and it's been a theme through several podcasts of entrepreneurs who we meet with that we end up working with are ones who say, "Look, I've got a model. This is where I could take it, and this is what I think the next couple of years looks like." The guys that come in here and show me a financial model and say, hey, I'm going to be a $500 million company. I just need X amount of capital to get there. He's like, well, focus on the unit economics, focus on like what your brand stands for, and that their people drive a brand and drive a strategy. Like an Excel model does not drive a deal. No. And I think a lot of people who come out of finance think that you can just tinker with some of the levers of an Excel spreadsheet, and you got to tinker with like humans, which is a lot different.
I remember hearing at one of my family office conferences a VC guy get up and say, most entrepreneurs want to tell you how they're going to get from A to Z, but I want to find the people that can tell me what B, C, D, and E look like. Sure. And that resonated with me. Yeah.
It's a lot of hard work. I think people start to appreciate
it is blocking and tackling. Yeah. It is.
And then from a standpoint, and I've been through this several times, running a business and being responsible for it, and you've got friends and family as investors, you got a lot of your own capital in, maybe talk for a minute about like the fortitude and the perseverance that's required, and maybe tapping into your faith and tapping into, a support network, because being an entrepreneur and being a CEO and being the funder of a business, which I've experienced, is very heavy.
Yeah.
And you can't really tell too many people about it because you're supposed to be like the pillar of strength. And the reality is that this is not an easy business, and all these venture deals are experiments.
Right. Oh man, you're going to pull it out. So
let's bring it.
So that's true, and that's heavy. You sit at the top, and it's you remember growing up, all the things that now maybe that your dad was harboring, but he didn't tell you because it wasn't right for you to know, and he kept you from that, and that's for a lot of ways that's the position that we sit in as leaders and business owners. And so we are doing things that nobody needs to know. We're funding things when and I'm blessed that I have been able to do that and keep the business going in lean times and just times. I mean, there have been a couple of turns, and I think every entrepreneur's had them. There's a couple of turns and there were watch outs, and I mean, I think any small business can say we should have been dead a couple of times, and I'm probably one of them as well. And so I'm blessed to have been able to get us through those. And I do think that you asked about my faith. I think I've been given this mission. I don't think I would have had it laid on me as heavy as I did if I weren't supposed to do something really significant here. And so that's kind of what I said. I don't really know what it is, but it's out there, and I'm going to keep pressing, and I'm going to keep hammering on it. So
I used to do finance, and I used to get a paycheck every 2 weeks, and I might have had a bad day every once in a while. But being an entrepreneur is like a completely new dose of reality.
Yeah.
So
you pay, everybody in your business gets paid more than you do.
Yeah.
Right.
Or you don't get paid at all.
Right.
But I guess one of the things my uncle said to me, my Uncle Ed, he said to me, as an entrepreneur, you got to keep your highs lower and your lows higher, and try and operate in somewhat of an emotional band that's not as volatile as I used to be.
Yeah.
And then when you look on Facebook, or you get somebody's email, or somebody opens up a new location, and it's like, all right, I get it. That's your highlight reel. Yeah. What's your real reel?
Yeah.
So from your standpoint, you seem like you got a level of leadership. Like, your style is very transparent, but you're definitely steering the ship in the right direction, and making sure people feel like they're a part of the team, and that this is going to grow because of the people you have, and not because of a mission statement or just a vision.
Right. Yeah. Well, thank you. Part of that comes from my background, and my background and just how I grew up and how my dad raised me, and then part of it comes from just wisdom and understanding over time, just in the fire of building something that's new and young. And like you said, things that used to get me pretty fired up might not get me, might not even really hit my radar anymore. And I do see the younger people that are around me sometimes be kind of looking at me like, why is he not upset at this? And I'm just like, it's just like you said, the highs and lows, they need to be muted, and big wins, I trumpet them for the group, but then, go back home and wake up the next morning and get going again, right?
Yeah. So just the last point here, backing you as we go into this phase of bringing in an institutional capital partner to really take this to the next level. Backing you is not the same level of. I'm going to say this in a certain way, so take it the way you want to take it. But typically, an entrepreneur is a trainer and creates a program. In that program, and they become the face of the brand, and you're basically partnering with someone who believes that the brand is them.
Right.
And there's a level of risk associated with backing personal trainer who starts up a business, and then, what's their role? What's their ownership? Can they take advice? Can they take constructive criticism? Can they pivot? So from your standpoint, I feel like you're a CEO that started a business, but you're emotionally attached to the success of the business. You're not emotionally attached to a program or a technique or a fitness regimen, which is kind of unique in this type of situation.
I agree. Yeah. I think most by what I've seen, most businesses are born from somebody that's a trainer or an instructor that's very dynamic, and they want to, they have an entrepreneurial itch and they want to do it. Me, I wanted to build a company. I wanted to build a big company.
Right.
So people ask me all the time, "Are you gonna be an instructor?" I'm like, "No, I'm not."
Right.
But and I never wanted to, and
Right.
I never. I would put my best instructors on the TV program, and I would put them in. To me, it never was about me. I was there to be the leader, but that's not what it was.
I just want to highlight that, especially for potential investors that we're talking to and people that are potentially going to work for you in the future, is that in a situation, we've been investors in this, we've been advisors, where you typically need to bring someone like you in to work with the founder.
Yeah.
In this case, you have all the benefits of being the founder without the you don't need to be the face of the brand. You don't
Right.
someone's not taking the risk that you're going to wake up one day and say, you know what, we got to take these bikes out and we got to put in aerial yoga because that's my new thing. So I just want people to realize that when you look at boutique fitness concepts, it's usually homegrown.
Right.
And now you're asking that instructor or that diva or that guru to now run a business.
Right.
They're two different things.
Totally.
You can run a class and you can run a business.
Right.
So can't necessarily do both.
No.
Good.
And I understand that. So thank you for that. And I do think that I'm in the right place. I think all of my business background and my passion for fitness has led me to this, and I think I'm really in the sweet spot. Am I the right person 5 years from now if we have 50 studios, or I don't know, but I'm the right person right now, and I'm up for the challenge.
Well, I think your growth plan is to grow when it feels right and when the opportunities are there, and not to grow for the sake of growing.
No, we don't have to force anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you got the unit economics down now. You got the dual modality. You got a strong team. You got a great haircut. Looking great. Thank you for coming to the city to see me.
Thank you, buddy.
And we're looking forward to partnering up here with you through Integrity Square, getting this growth equity raise done over the next couple of months, and then hitting some new territories. And I just hope I get invited to the grand openings. Maybe a little red carpet.
Absolutely.
The carpet.
We'll make that happen.
All right, excellent.
All
Thanks
right.
for coming on.
Thank you, Pete.
Awesome.
All right, bye.